Thank you, Carrie, and good morning, everyone. Typically, the holidays are a time filled with that most of us spend with family members. Unfortunately, this year it's going to be a little bit different for just about everyone. Rather than gathering around the table, rather than gathering around the table for a meal, many of us will be FaceTiming or Zooming with friends and family across the country. As such, I've took a little bit of time to reflect on years gone by, and not just the holidays, but all of them. And some of my best memories are time that I spent with my grandparents, Nona and Jitter. Nona and Jitter were the determined, hardworking type. They grew up poor and they fell in love at a young age. Once married, they made the decision to leave their Oklahoma roots for what they hoped to be a better future on the West Coast. They at first found work in a factory and later a shipyard. In the shipyard, my grandfather was provided with an opportunity to learn welding, a skill that he hoped would enable him to return to the Midwest. And after a period of time, my grandparents chose to do exactly that, return home. Back home, my grandfather was able to use that skill to find work as a welder in the coal mines of southeast Kansas. In the mines, he built and maintained an enormous mechanized coal shovel known as Big Brutus, which is still on display to this day. The mine, work at the mine, provided him with an opportunity to purchase a small farm and to start a family. Together, he and my grandmother had 3 children, Bob, Kathy, and my mother, Linda. And on the farm, they raised cattle and other animals. And my grandmother would manage the farm while my grandfather continued work at the coal mine. My grandmother proved to be a fearless farmer. Not only did she tend to the animals, but she also shot squirrel and rabbit for dinner, as well as an unlucky pet goat who wouldn't stop eating the clothes on the line after they were hung out to dry. After a couple of decades, my grandfather was able to retire from the mine, and they chose to sell the house, sell the farm, and move closer to Kansas City. They did this because they believed that the opportunity that would provide better opportunities for their teenage children as young adults. Ultimately, their 2 daughters met their spouses and started families of their own. And this is where I come in. My memories of my grandparents are of their never-ending devotion to us, their grandchildren. My grandfather would pick my sister and I up from school almost every day, and we would get in the car for a 15-minute commute, which seemed to be felt like a death-defying sprint between the schoolhouse and their house. The one stop, the one reprieve, was a pit stop at the local convenience store for what my grandfather called happy hour, but it's not what you think. It was a bottle of soda and a candy bar. And then we would get back in the car and we would be on our way down the road. Finally, safe at their house, we would join our cousins for a pickup game of baseball or basketball or whatever sport we chose to play that day. And that game would almost inevitably end up in an exchange of curse words and someone accusing someone else of cheating. But that said, we would enjoy competing with each other very much and would almost certainly be back at it the next day. If we were unable to go outside, we would play a game of cards or a board game or read a book. However, at some point, we would inevitably make our way into the family room with my grandfather. was be tuned in to a baseball game or a Western movie or whatever uh, happened to be on at that particular time of the day, the nightly news. And we would sit quietly at first, and we would get louder and louder and louder until eventually my grandfather would have enough and he would reach into his magazine stand and retrieve a 12-inch paddle that he affectionately had named Mr. Black and Blue. Well, he would never actually ever hit us with the paddle. He would chase us around the house for hours on end with the paddle raised high over his head, and he would shout, and we would giggle. And Mr. Black and Blue, or BB as we like to call it, was one of our favorite playmates on a rainy day. So there are plenty of other great memories from the years gone by, but that time with my grandparents was certainly some of the best. And my grandfather has since passed, and they've since sold the house. And my grandmother, well into her 90s, lives with my aunt Kathy now. And I hope when COVID is over that we're able to have some time left to spend together. But regardless, I will appreciate it more due to the social distancing and the additional time to reflect. So, thank you.